Hello, in this video, let us talk about what is algebra and what do we usually cover in a typical algebra class. So, what is algebra? Algebra usually covers the functions. So how do we tell if something is a function versus something that is not a function? One way to do it is to use a picture. So when we have an expression and we want to know if something is a function or not, we use the graphing calculator to make a sketch. And then we use the vertical line test to decide if what we're looking at represents a function or something else, some other relations. So what does the vertical line test look like? What does it say? Vertical line test says that if we take any graph and we start drawing vertical lines anywhere, if that vertical line crosses our graph only once, then we have a function. If whatever vertical line we can imagine crosses our graph more than once, then we do not have a function, we have a relation. So let's look at a few examples and see how the vertical line test actually works. So here is the first one, y is x cubed. We have the coordinate axis. Let's make a picture. So here is the graphing calculator and we will type in exactly what we see. So y equals, we type in x, the caret means power to the power 3 and enter. So here is the picture. And this is the standard window. It goes from -10 to 10, -10 to 10, counting by ones. Let's make that picture on our sketch and then we will use the vertical line test. So here is what the cubic looks like approximately. Now we will make vertical lines. So anywhere we can think of, here's one vertical line. It'll only cross the graph once. Here's another vertical line. It'll only cross once. Here's another one, once. So that means that no matter where we put these vertical lines, there will be only one place of intersection, and that makes it a function. So the answer to the first one is that y is x cubed really represents a function. So this is function. Now let's look at the next example. So here we have x is equal to y squared. That is a very different example because all of our examples are usually solved for the y. This one is solved for the x. And when we have something solved for anything other than the y, we need to rearrange this expression and get it back to y equals, because the calculator can only make a picture if the expression is solved for the y. Because here is the button and it says y equals, and when we press it, everything is solved for the y. There is no x equals. So first we need to solve for the x, and that means we need to undo the square, and to undo the square we use the square root. So here we can take a square root of both sides. Square root of the y squared is equal to plus minus square root of x. Square and square root cancels off, and we have y is plus minus square root of x, which means we actually have to type in two equations, the positive square root and the negative square root. And together, both of them will make the graph for our original expression. So let's do that. Let's use the calculator and see what this new picture looks like. So here's the calculator. Let's type in the positive square root of x and then the negative square root of x. The short minus represents the negative, the large minus represents the minus. So here's the picture. The top square root comes first, then the bottom is the negative square root. So here on one picture, this is what the calculator says. The top part and then the negative part is exactly the same but on the bottom. So here we have our calculator picture. Now let's look and see what the vertical line test says. The vertical line test means that we're drawing vertical lines through anywhere. So here's one. It crossed the picture in more than one location. Here's another vertical line crossed in more than one location, which means this is not a function. It's a relation, but it is not a function. Now we can also say the vertical line test a little bit differently. Here we have used the picture to decide if the graph represents a function. We could also do it without the picture, because what is the difference between this diagram and this diagram. The difference is that in the case where we have a function, what's happening is we have one x value. Here's the x value. It only goes with one y value. 1x, 1y. 1x, 1y. Here, when it's not a function, 1x goes to more than 1y. So 1x is associated with multiple y locations, y values, and that makes it not a function. So we can paraphrase the vertical line test differently. We can say that if any x value is associated with only one y value, then we have a function. If any x value is associated with more than one y value, then we do not have a function. And one other way to see this, except for the other than on the picture, we can also use the table of values to see the same. So here is the calculator once again, our graph. Now let's look at the table. Second graph is a table, and here's the table. We can see that for 1x, we have two different y's, positive and negative. The 4 goes with a positive 2 and negative 2. The 4 goes with a positive 2 and negative 2. The 9 goes with a positive 3 and negative 3, which means we have two different y's for 1x, and that makes it not a function. And let's look at one last example. This one is y equals 1 over x. So here is, let's clear the screens and type in 1 divided by x. So here is the picture. This one is called hyperbola. Let's put it on the graph and use the vertical line test. So here is the hyperbola. One arm is on the top, approaching the x and y axis, and one just like it on the bottom. Now, any vertical line that we can imagine will cross our graph only once. Here is the vertical line, only one intersection. Vertical line, only one intersection. So this is a function. This graph represents a function. And that's it. That's how to use the vertical line to tell if something is a function versus something that is not a function. And in the algebra class, we are discussing functions. So what type of functions are we going to look at in this class? And the types are, there are 4 types of functions that we focus on in the algebra class, and these are the polynomials, rational functions, exponential functions, and logarithmic functions. These are the 4 main classes of functions that we will look at. Each one will pass the vertical line test, and we will discuss them in different videos. If you have any questions on anything, please let me know. Thank you for your time. Take care.